Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs to professionals to help you go all in on your business. Without further ado, I'm your host, Ezra Brown, and I'm allowing my guest to introduce herself.
Hi there, I'm Kendra Prospero.
Kendra, all right, tell us a little bit about what you do, Kendra. That way, the audience kind of knows who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm the CEO and founder of an outsourced HR company called Turning the Corner. We help growing small businesses with all of their people needs. And so when you're running a small business, all problems are people problems usually. And we help get in there and solve those people problems so that the company has a better bottom line. There's more productivity, there's a better culture, less turnover, and ultimately for the leader, there's more ease of leading. And so it makes it so that the whole process of being a CEO and leader isn't so hard.
Right, absolutely. You know, Kendra, and HR takes special place for people. How did you kind of get into HR? That's definitely not something where you just went to school and went for school for HR.
Oh, people do. Yeah, people do. I didn't, though.
Right,
I actually started as a software engineer for IBM. I spent most of my career more on the technical side of the world, but I often would watch HR off in the distance and was really curious about it. And eventually I ended up in an HR role helping put together a leadership development program. And it was there that I found that I had quite a talent for it. So I'm quick to see people. I'm quick to help coach them. I know a lot about what gets people motivated and excited. And I was able to help a lot of people navigate that at IBM. And so in 2011, a friend of mine said, "Hey, I think you're onto something. Why don't you go do this for small businesses?" And so 14 years ago, I opened up my business to offer that kind of support, but to smaller businesses, because small businesses don't typically have access to that kind of talent in an
right.
affordable way. And that's what I wanted to be able to do.
Absolutely. And what would you say has kind of helped you, grow your business through this time? You know, it's 14 years of having your own business. You definitely have had to probably seen some trials and tribulations through there. But what would you say has helped you grow your business?
I think the number one thing that's helped has just been serving other people. So I'm very much the kind of person that serves others, and I want to help support companies and people. And so when I serve somebody and I make a connection for somebody or I help them in some level, they're always going to come around and help me. And that's really where a lot of my businesses come from, is just through referrals, through working with others, and doing also awesome work where people want to recommend and want to
Right.
refer. So, but I would say probably 60-70% of the business has grown through referrals or through that kind of a channel where it's been somebody that maybe I've met out in the streets, or someone on my sales team has met them, and they've come in that way. But it's because they know us and they like us and they trust us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely understand it because I don't do business with anybody I don't like and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And then the small business, kind of how did you get the small business niche or vertical? Because you could definitely do HR for big time corporations, whatever. But how did you come about that you wanted to do small business HR?
Well, I grew up in a small business family, so my dad was an entrepreneur, and I saw what he went through, at least as a kid, in terms of just the resources that he had access to or felt like he could afford. And when I got to IBM and I saw the enormous amount of value that came from having a really professional team and obviously big budgets, I saw that gap, and I thought, what if someone like my dad could have access to that kind of talent in an affordable way and in a way that's really helping him grow his business? What would that look like? And
Right.
so that's really how I got into the small business space, is just growing up in that environment and seeing it not, seeing them not have those resources and wanting to be able to provide that. Because there really isn't a lot of just really good, I call it really good HR
Right.
available to small businesses. There's a lot of people who are very well meaning, who are following maybe a script and are able to potentially, answer some basic questions or do some things around compliance and maybe a little bit more beyond that. But to really sit down and look, a business owner in the eye and say, what are your goals? Where are you going to try to take this business over the next 3 to 5 years? And then in the back of my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what kinds of people are going to want to work here? What are they going to expect? How can I help build up that people agenda in such a way that the people that this CEO needs are actually going to be interested in the role, and then are going to stick around and get the product out the door, or get whatever they're trying to sell out the door, because they're so excited and passionate about it.
Right.
That's not typically what you see in the HR that's available to small businesses. And so, but that's the kind of work we do, is really that deep, very strategic thought leader HR around the people problems that, small businesses encounter.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And what would you say that you kind of struggled with when you got into your business? You know, what was that one thing that you kind of had to work on through time? You're probably still forging it a little bit.
Well, when you think about all of the functions of a business, right? Sales, operations, marketing, accounting, finance, HR, technology, strategic leadership, all of that. Those are the various functions that you have to kind of be good at all of them to be a good CEO. And in my career at IBM and in jobs before that, I was fairly intentional about making sure I was learning the different functions, so that because I knew I wanted to someday run my own business.
Right.
I didn't know what it was going to be, but I just could feel that was, part of my journey, was to be an entrepreneur. And so I spent, my career making sure that I was learning those various functions, so that when this became my thing, I would have the nut sort of cracked to a
Right.
certain extent. But
Right.
I will tell you, there is nothing that can really prepare you for running a business. No business degree, certainly no corporate job can really get you ready for it. I mean,
Right.
when you have to make that first payroll, and the second payroll, and the third, and the 400th payroll, I mean, that's where you really learn
Right.
finance. When you are wanting to get more inbound leads and try to figure out how to make that happen, because inbound leads are faster to close, then you
Right.
crack the nut on marketing. When you're selling a really complex deal and you're trying to win over a customer with a certain pricing arrangement, then you learn sales, right? And so I mean, that's all of those various things. I think have been challenges in their own way over the years, but luckily I came in with a little bit of knowledge.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. And then, and then vice versa off of that, what would you say you done really well, through your time?
Well, I you have to ask my team, but I believe that I'm a very good leader. They're going to attest to that. I can think one way all day long, right? But what really matters is what the team says, and how
Right.
they feel, and how long they stick around, and the kind of work that they do. And based on those indicators, I would think that I could say that I'm a good leader. I really love leading. I love managing. I love helping people be the best version of themselves. And I see that
Right.
that is my job as a leader, is to help them be the best version of themselves. And I think I think that's one of the things that I would hope my team would say about me,
Yeah.
And I really, really love it a lot. I love sitting down and trying to, figure that out with people. How can I help them also learn things here that it's going to really benefit them in the long run? And then how can I turn it also into a community where it's not just a job, it's not certainly not a family. That's
Right.
yes, it's not a family, but it's a community. And
Right.
so if it's a community, how can we rely on each other and care for each other and really be there for each other through more than just work?
That makes sense. No, that makes sense. And especially as you say, like being a good leader, that matters a lot. If you don't have somebody good up top, then how are you gonna expect everybody else to kind of run for you? Like nobody's gonna sprint through a brick wall if you're not willing to do it up top.
Mm-mm.
And I see that.
True.
I see that a ton. Sorry, my editor walked in. I didn't even know he's still here. All right, deuces. But that does make sense, because I mean I see it in my business. Our owner, I've grown up around him, so I obviously have a different relationship than most people in the office do, because they're hired on from not knowing him from Adam. But I've known him my whole life. I grew up in sales, and it makes me work hard for him because he'd do the same thing. So that makes sense. I could understand how your people would probably go pretty hard for you, and I would assume you have people that worked for you for a long time.
I have people that have worked for me for the amount of time that I want them to work. So I
Right.
mean,
You want them to flourish.
yeah, I want them to flourish, but I also do believe that there's a life cycle to a job, and that I think leaders will get into the retention trap, where they will think that it's so important to retain people that they don't think about the diversity of thought that can come from having some turnover. So I always say that you want to have a return on the tenure of your employees. So you want to make sure that they're staying long enough that you're getting that return on them and that they're getting the return on working for you. And so that's what I aim to do, is to make sure that people are getting the resume build from working here, and I'm getting the work, the revenue, and the profit from them, as well as the other great ideas and just the collaboration that we can do together. And once we've had that, then I'm not so worried about the turnover at that point. So I actually ask in an interview, I ask people, so what happens after turning the corner? What do you want to
Right.
learn here so that you're better prepared for your next job? I mean,
Right.
it's a jaw-dropping question for people. They're not ready for that at all. But they do
Absolutely
have
not.
an idea of what their career is, and I think it's a way better question to ask than what are you planning to be in the next 5 years, which is,
Yeah.
that common interview question, which nobody can answer. But can you
Right.
picture a little bit about what you'd like to learn here? Yeah, you can imagine some of that for sure.
Abs- Absolutely, and that kind of helps segue me into what I wanted to ask you, because what kind of y'all's philosophy? What is y'all's philosophy of turning the corner? What is that? For you guys, whenever you guys come in to say, I am that small business coming in to talk with you, that you're coming in to talk to, and kind of consult with it, or what is y'all's philosophy when y'all come in?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. I mean, when you,
Like
yeah.
with your company, in your business, in y'all's HR, when y'all come into a small business to help me out, say I am the small business owner, and you're coming in to help me, what is the philosophy you're looking like, that you guys are, y'all's three main pillars, so to speak?
So, um, well, I mean, first and foremost, we only work with good leaders. So I won't work. Matter of fact, it's one of our values. We hire and we fire. We manage, train, govern, promote, compensate against our values. They're really, really important to us. And
Right.
our values, one of them is no jerks. And how that shows up for us is that we don't have jerks on the team, and we don't work with jerks. And so I will not work with a company or with a leader who doesn't at least want to do their best to be a good leader. So they've got to have at least a grain of self-awareness around what they're good at and what they're not good at, and be open to some coaching and open to some guidance. If they're completely closed off to that and they think they know everything, I'm not going to be able to help them, and I don't
Right.
want to
Why even
help
call?
them.
Why even call somebody in?
Yeah, exactly. So I do get those occasional calls. We get those calls where someone says, oh, come and fire this person. I'm not going to do that. Now, I'll teach you how to fire somebody. I'll be there as a witness to it. I'll role play with you on it, but there's no way
Right.
I'm going to come in and fire somebody for you.
Right. You gotta learn how to do it on your own.
And so, those are the people who don't want to really look themselves in the mirror and really deal with their head trash. And so, but if they're willing to do that, then yeah, absolutely, we'll work with them. Additionally, we primarily only work with companies that are, there's two subsets. One subset is a company that maybe grew up with no focus on the people. So they maybe got to 30, 40, 50 employees without that like person in the role of HR, or the CEO, or some, co-founder, or somebody who really cares about the people and what their experience is like. And then they reach some kind of inflection point where they know they need that help. So
Right.
maybe they're about to get sued, or maybe they've lost a key employee, or they're growing, they can't fill the roles, and they're just not sure why, or maybe there's just general like morose around the culture and they're not sure what's going on. We
Right.
can get in there and help fix all of those things. And that's where a lot of our clients are, is in that kind of 30 to 200 employees without the focus on the people, and now they need it. The
Right.
other subset we work with are companies that are on a high growth trajectory, and they maybe have already been around the block, like they're maybe a serial entrepreneur, and they know that the people are going to tank or win their business. And
Right.
so a new entrepreneur, a brand new entrepreneur, thinks that they're, going to be able to do this company with their best friend and their brother-in-law and, their neighbor or whatever. And we don't work with that kind of company, because those folks don't usually work out. So you have to have
Right.
a thoughtful people strategy, a thoughtful hiring process to
Yeah.
bring in the right people on the right seat so that you can actually get the product out the door. That's where we can come in and help. And so high growth companies, or companies that just received a Series A, or post revenue, and they're, kind of hockey sticking it, those we can help those people a lot.
Right. Absolutely. And Kendra, what would you say you would do when Kendra gets her company? You're all the way where you sell out, or you get to where you don't have to do anything else. You get to hang out. What would you do? What are you gonna do with your time?
When I'm retired, you mean, or?
Yeah, retired, or your company's just running and you don't have to do anything. You show up, do every
Oh,
once a month, do your bookkeeping, whatever you do. But what are you
yeah.
gonna do with your time?
Oh, I don't know. I love this work. I mean, this is the work I feel very, very passionate about. So it's very hard for me to imagine doing anything else because I really love it. It's all I
Right.
want to read about. It's all I listen to. It's all I really want to talk about. Like I love, love, love helping people love their job. That is
Yeah.
like my life work. And
Right.
I actually feel itchy when I hear somebody say that they don't love their job, and I feel so compelled to help. And
Right.
so I can see myself doing this the rest of my life for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, say all right. Say you've helped everybody in the world. Everybody's helped and saved. Everybody loves their job. What is it that you want to do with your time? That matters.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean it's a ways out for me, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No traveling, nothing, nothing
yeah,
like
for
that.
sure. I mean all those things I already do a lot of that though, and I have a pretty rich life right now. Yeah,
Right.
so we'd be kind of carrying on with that, I guess.
Absolutely, that's understandable. We just always ask people that whenever once we go through the little bit of business. And then no, you talked a little bit about kind of what's your ideal, your ideal people are that you work with, in those higher grossing companies, and you're not trying to work with, John Smith and Rod Smith together, on their plumbing company. But how did y'all kind of form that, forge that to where you knew that was what you were looking for exactly? Trial and error, kind of what was it? Or is that automatically the niche that you went into was just high grossing companies?
Um, no, no, no. I started really, I don't think any entrepreneur knows exactly who they're going to go after at the very beginning. Like, even if there is an entrepreneur that took the time to put that really thoughtful business plan together, I would say that very few business plans get fully executed in that way. So no, I started off by, um, really trying to get a better feel for what's the tolerance level for small businesses. I knew I wanted to work with small businesses. So
Right,
that was my initial, for sure, like, pretty clear, I guess, beacon of light off in the distance with small businesses. But to really get to that place where I could say, the 30 to 200 employees or the high growth companies, I mean, that was just years and years of trial and error and being able to serve different companies and then being able to say, like, this company we really helped and here's why. Let's go get more of those. And
right.
so yeah, it was a bit of a trial and error for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then the last thing I got for you is what was it like for you whenever you burned the ship? Say, you went from working at IBM, you had a stable income, every life was probably okay, and then you just went out on your own and started your own company.
Hmm.
What was that? What were those emotions when you went out and burned the ship?
Well, a lot of exhilaration. I felt I was incredibly lucky right out of the gates because the day I received my EIN number from the government, I sent an email out to pretty much everyone that was my fan. So friends and families, friends and family, colleagues, vendors I'd worked with at IBM, neighbors, you name it, people I knew, but they were fans of mine. They liked me. And I said,
Absolutely.
okay, all right, everyone, I'm getting ready to go out on the limb and burn my ship, right? And I said, I'm going to start this business. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be, but I want to maybe help people, so help small businesses with training, HR, recruiting, help individuals with their resume. And within hours, I had like 10 leads. I had people write me back and say, well, would you be able to help? And have you ever heard of? And one of the most powerful emails came from one of my vendors I worked with at IBM, and she said, can you teach a class in Chicago on Monday about interviewing? And I was like, yes, I can. And so I ended up getting a really big check right out of the gates. I mean, like 3 days into running my business, I had seed money already, and it was
That's
real
awesome.
money. It wasn't angel dollars that I was going to have to pay back or would feel obligated to. I actually earned it. And
Yeah.
so that really set me on a good path because I started to also think like if I can't build this business with real money, is it a
Right.
real business? I'm not
Yeah.
sure. So I've always been very focused on that. Even bank money, a line of credit or it's not real money. I mean, yeah, it's real cash, but it's not real money in the sense of around that, you've earned it through profitability to prove that you are
Ye-
running a profitable business. And
Oh
so
yeah.
that's what I always wanted to do. And so I think in those initial days, like I was just exhilarated because I actually had something to work with.
God,
and
that's awesome.
yeah, so I mean, I continued to invest back into the business. So I took that check and I, did the website, did the logo, built out some of that infrastructure that's needed to just run a business. And
Right.
I did that for sure for a year or two. I mean, before I was, making my own income that I felt like was, worthy of my family. But
Right.
Yeah, but that was also a choice on my part too, to continue to invest in the business, be a little scrappy with my own salary.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That is definitely awesome. You're one of I've done a ton of these interviews. You're one of the first people I've heard say they had a deal lined up right whenever they got their EIN.
Yeah,
You might be I think you may be the only person. We've done 500 interviews. You might be the first one. That's awesome.
I was lucky.
That
Yeah,
is awesome, but I can see though you have a glowing personality. Like you seem like you come off like, especially in person, I could see where you come off very positive, where people want to talk with you. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you'd be one of the
Thank
people
you.
I walk up to and I would feel like easily to talk to in a networking group. So I
Yeah.
could see that.
Yeah,
I
that
could
is
see
true.
that.
I think that's why I've gotten a lot of, that was the other key thing I learned early on was, where do I get business, or how do I get business?
Right.
What activity do I do to get business and leads in the door? And when I could answer that question was when I started adding to my team. And the answer to the question was when I was out in the public. When I was
Yeah.
out networking, talking with people, I would always get business. That
Yeah.
wasn't always business I wanted, but I knew that it was something that was coming from the conversations I was having. And so
Absolutely.
so whenever we're, low on cash or anything like that, like all I got to do is just go out in the public and hustle a little bit and things come in. Which is
Absolutely. Yeah. Because
lucky.
that's all I do is hustle for that. Because I'm door to door and that way. So for especially with the
Hmm.
merchant services, the credit card processing side, always.
Yeah.
But now, Kendra, leave the people with the last word, and I appreciate you for coming on and talking with us. But leave the people the last word.
Trust.
Trust. All right. Burn the ship, guys. Thank you so much, Kendra.
Thank you.